to the Teskey Daily Report. My name's Aaron Teskey. I'm here as the voice of the silent majority, fighting for your rights and mine one episode at a time. I'm a patriot that loves my country and is just very concerned about the path we are going down. It is the 4th of July for me, although I probably won't get this edited and posted until the 5th or 6th. So I'm going to do a little educational piece in honor of our founding fathers. But real quick, I just want to give a shout out to those military men and women, both overseas and at home, that give me the freedom to share my views like this. Thank you for your services. You make the United States of America possible. Since the dawn of time, it seems, the Muslim world has been at war with the infidels, or people like you and me. Even before the inception of our wonderful country, they targeted non-Muslim communities. They didn't recognize us because we were non-believers. This is where the idea of no negotiations with hostage takers and terrorists comes from. I've seen a lot of recent articles popping up about Thomas Jefferson and his religious curiosity and how he was so diverse for his time. This comes from the idea of when the Thomas Jefferson Library was transferred to Washington, D.C., they found a Quran in his library. Very recent literature within the last year or so is trying to say that even a founding father was a friend of Islam. So here's a history, the real reason Thomas Jefferson owned a copy of the Quran. This is a 232-year history of our fight against Islam and why it is no longer taught in our public schools. When Thomas Jefferson saw there was no negotiating with Muslims, he formed what is now the Marines, seagoing soldiers as they called them. These Marines were attached to U.S. merchant vessels. When the Muslims attacked U.S. merchant vessels, they were repulsed by armed soldiers. But there is more. The Marines would follow the Muslims back to their villages and kill every single man, woman, and child in the village. It didn't take long for the Muslims to leave U.S. merchant vessels alone. English and French merchant vessels started running up our flag when entering the Mediterranean to secure safe travel. This is why the Marine hymn contains the verse, "To the shores of Tripoli." This is a very interesting and must-know piece of our history. It points out where we may be heading. Most Americans are unaware of the fact that over 200 years ago, the United States had declared war on Islam, and Thomas Jefferson led the charge. At the height of the 18th century, Muslim pirates, known as the Barbary pirates, were the terror of the Mediterranean and large area of the North Atlantic. They attacked every ship in sight, held the crews for exorbitant ransoms. Those taken hostage were subjected to barbaric treatment and wrote heartbreaking letters home, begging their governments and family to pay whatever their Mohammedan captors demanded. These extortionists of the high seas represented the North African Islamic nations of Tripoli, Tunis, Morocco, and Algiers, collectively referred to as the Barbary Coast, and presented a dangerous and unprovoked threat to the new American Republic. Before the Revolutionary War, U.S. merchant ships had been under the protection of Great Britain. When the U.S. declared its independence and entered into war, the ships of the United States were protected by France. However, once the war was won, America had to protect its own fleets. Thus, the birth of the U.S. Navy. Beginning in 1784, 17 years before he would become president, Thomas Jefferson became America's minister to France. That same year, the U.S. Congress sought to appease its Muslim adversaries by following in the footsteps of European nations who paid bribes to the Barbary states rather than engaging them in war. In July of 1785, Algerian pirates captured American ships, and the Dey of Algiers demanded an unheard-of ransom of $60,000. It was a plain and simple case of extortion, and Thomas Jefferson was vehemently opposed to any further payments. Instead, he proposed to Congress the formation of a coalition of allied nations, who together could force the Islamic states into peace. A disinterested Congress decided to pay the ransom. In 1786, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams met with Tripoli's ambassador to Great Britain to ask by what right his nation attacked American ships and enslaved American citizens. and why Muslims held so much hostility towards America, a nation with which they had no previous contacts. The two future presidents reported that Ambassador Sidi Haji Abdul Rahman Ajah had answered that Islam was founded on the laws of their prophet, that it was written in their Quran that all nations who would not acknowledge their authority were sinners, that it was their right and their duty to make war upon them wherever they could be found, and to make slaves of all they could, take as prisoners, and that every Muslim who should be slain in battle was sure to go to paradise. Alright everyone, sorry about the abrupt ending here. We'll pick up right where we left off tomorrow. Thank you everybody for your time. Again, another shout out to our U.S. servicemen. Thank you everybody. If you believe in my views, please check me out at patreon.com. Just check out the link at the bottom of the screen. Thank you everybody. Have a great night. I hope you enjoyed your 4th of July.